Hey, what's up? This is Tanja Miles, your host of the Tailgate Show. I am so glad you tuned in this morning. As always, I appreciate you guys listening. Thank you so much for all the great things you say about the show. And hey, look, we're always looking for great guests. We always have great guests, but if you're out there and you got something to say and you want to help our community grow and help people be the best that they can be, then guess what? We want to hear from you. I want to talk to you a little bit about our guest today. This is my first time meeting him. Heard a lot of great things about him, especially his leadership skills, the love he has for the job that he's been doing for a long time, and he's going to tell us how long he's been doing it. Today in studio, we have our own Chief Murphy J. Paul. So glad you're here today, Chief.
Thank you for having me.
It's such a blessing to finally meet you. I've heard so many great things about you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I appreciate it. I pay my friends well to tell me about this. So.
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's enough money for you to pay them. I think everything they say about you is totally, true, and it's proof on what you're doing now in our community and how you just came in there like gangbusters and you're making some stuff happen.
Well, I'm trying. When you surround yourself by good people, and I'm excited to be part of an organization with a deep history and heritage, part of this community, and I'm looking forward to moving us forward in the direction that I believe we need to be going.
That's good. So tell us a little bit about your background. I know you worked for the state troopers for a long time. So tell us, like, when you started, when you was a little boy, did you want to be a police officer? You had guns, and for good reasons, not to protect now.
Yeah, that wasn't in my plan. I didn't really want to be a police officer. I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana. So, where I was at, it was a lot of love for the police department. And you can Google the history of the New Orleans Police Department. But my first positive experience with law enforcement was when I came across a state trooper who called me sir.
Okay.
Yeah. And, opportunities presented itself, and my mama told me I needed a job. And that's kind of how the law enforcement thing came. I worked for a local agency in New Orleans prior to becoming a state trooper. I was blessed to spend right around 26 years with the state, and 24 of those years were with the Louisiana State Police.
So what did you do there?
So I started off as a trooper, and then I was promoted as a sergeant in around 6 years, running our criminal intelligence division, which was right after September 11th. So I was kind of thrown in that pretty fast because the attention was in intelligence after 6 years. But prior to that, I was only on a uniform for 1 year, less than a year actually. I went in narcotics.
But that's pretty fast to go from being in a unit, now you're in office.
Well, I think with me, because when I came on in 1994, we still were in the height of the crack cocaine epidemic. We were still terrorizing our communities, and I was a young black officer. We didn't have too many young black undercover guys, and the guys see me at the gas pump and ask me if you want to go to narcotics. I'm like, not really. But after a brief conversation, I looked at it as an opportunity, and I immediately went to narcotics and started working undercover, buying drugs undercover from I believe my first deal was in Covington. Then I went to Bogalusa, Hammond, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Monroe.
Oh wow! All the great places.
Yeah, so I did a lot undercover. I worked for the federal government, doing some undercover work for them as well throughout my undercover career with Louisiana State Police, and then I was promoted into intelligence after about 6-7 years on the job. And from there, I went to detectives as a lieutenant in detectives. I was promoted there, and then I was asked to go back to New Orleans and run a federal task force, which is called High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area, which is a task force with local, state, and federal agents on it, where we're specifically targeting parishes. Orleans Parish at the time, EBR is now one of them. And I was a group supervisor there prior to that. And after that, I was promoted to commander, captain of narcotics statewide, to run the 9 different field offices throughout the state. As a narcotics commander, and then from there I went into probably one of my best assignments, which was internal affairs.
Oh, wow. IA, man.
IA, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting you would say that, because most people, like, man, not saying IAs are snitch, not at all. I mean, I think it's a great, great department, but, people, when they see IA, they're like, somebody's in trouble.
Yeah. Well, for me, with state police and internal affairs, I help so many people. I help police officers, and I looked at it as not necessarily you were hurt, because those guys who...
Because you see that on TV,
Well, yeah, I mean, there is a reputation, guys, you become the joke, guys don't want to go to lunch with you no more, things like that, and, we wanted to change that stereotype in internal affairs, but it's really a close section, internal affairs, but I learned so much, and it was kind of a constant, a confidence builder for me also, because you got a lot of exposure with the senior command staff, so I got to learn from being in settings with the senior command staff, and but you got to know the department through a different set of lenses, because you kind of know everybody's business, So yeah, it was a real good learning experience for me, and I grew up a lot. Let's just say that I grew up a lot working in internal affairs, and after that, I was promoted to the major of investigations, which covered not just narcotics detectives, our fusion center, and others, and then I was promoted to Deputy Superintendent, Lieutenant Colonel, over support services, which covered the crime lab, training academy, fleet, aviation, criminal records. And I only did that for probably a year before I was promoted back to transfer to the Bureau of Investigation, which covered detectives, everything I talked about earlier in investigation, but also gaming, which a lot of people don't realize that we are the regulatory enforcement arm of the Gaming Control Board.
So you come with a plethora of just knowledge and information, and you bring so much to the table. I mean, do you think, that sets you up for such a time as this?
Doc, I kind of, because most of my career I was being promoted so fast and so young. I know a little bit about everything, but a lot about nothing. Every time I was getting to that point where I was developing that expertise, I have to learn something new. So it was, I joke about that. But yeah, I think, in hindsight, looking back, that diverse background, that I had in working investigations, because in my prior hat as the Deputy Superintendent of Investigations, I work with just about all the sheriff's departments and many of the police departments throughout the state.
Good.
Because we work a lot of office-involved shootings. Louisiana State Police works the Baton Rouge Police Department shootings. So I got to meet sheriffs and chiefs of police, and I tell you, when you do that, every jurisdiction is a little different. Every police department has its own little culture.
That's a good word, but that's a good way of putting it.
Absolutely. And each one of those leaders have different leadership styles, different personalities, egos, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to, I had to make those necessary adjustments, when I was dealing with all the different law enforcement leaders throughout the state to accomplish, specific goals. So I had to learn that emotional intelligence just to get through and make sure that we were able to, to do thorough investigations.
Okay. So what made you want to be chief?
Well, I really wasn't thinking about being the chief of the Baton Rouge
Police. Yes, you were. I mean,
So let me say this. It's interesting because prior to this, I was obviously state police. I had put in to become the superintendent, and I went through that process. And let me tell you, it was a great process because I had an opportunity to sit down with the governor, and the governor interviewed me, and I'm telling you, that was big. I just sit down and interview with the governor. That was good, right? I was okay after that. So if I didn't get the job, I interviewed with the governor.
There you go. Like some perks came with it.
Absolutely, because I have a lot of respect for our governor, and I think he's doing a great job.
Yes.
And so, just going through that process, it didn't work out. And I was going through this phase because at the time there were so many things. There was some change going on in the Louisiana State Police, and I needed to do something to help me manage what I was going through at the time in my professional life. And I was led to John Maxwell. I had been following John Maxwell teachings for a minute. I was going through that stage leading up to applying for state police I was really, reading a lot of leadership and management books and trying to come into my own as a leader. And John Maxwell touched my heart. And,
well, for those who don't know, let's break down who he is. I mean, he's a great guy when it comes to teaching principles about real leadership.
That's correct, with a Christian perspective.
There you go.
Yeah. And he just touched my heart with his teachings, and I followed him, and I decided to invest in my future, and I put in for a course and to be a certified mentor trainer.
Oh wow!
As a John Maxwell, we call it the JMT, the John Maxwell team.
Okay.
So I went to Orlando, Florida, and I met some people from Baton Rouge who are JMT, a part of the JMT team, and it was just such a positive experience for me. And we spent about 4 days at the conference. And during it, there's exercises you go through and things that you learn. And I tap into my experience with law enforcement. Now, you have people from a faith-based community, nonprofit organization, business owners, government, federal, and we all come to the table. And there's a lot of peer editing, right, where everybody's, giving you feedback on your speeches and on your perspective. And a couple of people thought I would be a pretty good chief based on some of my comments and acts. And I was like, no, not really. So long story short, I decided, I knew the position was open, and I applied for it when I came back. The day I came back was the last day to apply.
Really?
Yep. And if I had not had a updated resume and everything from state police, I would not have had all the information available. Right. So I was able to do a little modifications because leadership is the same. It doesn't matter what agency you go to. So it was easy for me to kind of change the name and a few things that were specific to the Baton Rouge Police Department. I did a little research on it, and I applied, and the rest is history. Here I am.
Wow, what a great story. I mean, talking about everything just kind of mapped out. I mean, from going to that conference till the day before and having all your ducks in a row for that. Again, like I said, for such a time as this, it just kind of all fell into place.
That's why I think it's a calling for me.
No, it has to be a calling.
Because it wasn't in my plan.
Right.
It wasn't in my plan. There were a few opportunities presented to me. Some that would probably take less time now, and probably from a financial standpoint would have been more. But somebody told me, one of my mentors, you want to see God laugh, tell him your plans. Yeah,
watch him laugh back at you. Absolutely. Like, I got you.
Yeah.
Well, that is so great. Well, I'm glad God had a plan for you to be our chief, because again, I can say this because it's not my show, but it is my show. You love the other guys, knew a lot of them. Yeah. They're great guys, but I just thought it would be good to bring a fresh pair of eyes in, somebody that was new, and so you were one of my choices. You really were. So when I got the news, I'm like, yes, I feel good about myself. So again, congratulations.
Yes, ma'am.
And you hit the ground running.
Yeah. And,
Tell us about that.
Yeah, because I got, you say the guys, several of the candidates are part of my leadership team.
I thought that was a very cool thing that you did.
Deputy Chief McGarner. My commander is Myron Daniels, who runs the internal affairs section. Herb Andy Tweedy is what we call him.
Tweedy.
Very engaged. His heart has been with
He was on the cover too.
Yeah.
So y'all should have a lot of good stories.
You're right. That's right. He sure was. Yeah. So the leadership team has embraced me, and but to me, going to the shift meetings. When I first came, and I listened to the men and women of the police department who wear the uniform, the boots on the ground every day. And I really enjoy having a conversation with them and listening to them, listening to learn. And I learned a lot. And some of the ideas that I have that I've been presenting and trying to move forward with actually came from the police officers who are there doing the work.
And that makes sense, though.
Absolutely. They're the ones doing it. And, I have the utmost respect for those police officers because they put their lives on the line every day.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of great stories out there about you, but I don't think there's a lot of stories telling how, like, after you put that application in, and then what about that process? Tell us about that process. And were you nervous?
Well, I wasn't really nervous about the process. Once you put it in, I didn't think it was going to take so long.
All merit on place. She betted that.
It was. So it was such a transparent process, and personally, I would have preferred it to be more, not transparent and behind the scenes. But I've come to appreciate it a lot more, and that's why I thank the mayor for her leadership. That entire vetting process was an experience for me. To go up there and answer those questions, and then. The blogs, people talk about you. You got to get prepared. Don't get your feelings hurt, because everybody don't always like your responses. But I really do think that whole process, because I wasn't used to that, right? And, when an article was written and people say things, and, I had family love me. And they won't go in there and
they want,
like, not my baby.
Right. Yeah, you don't know him like I know him.
Exactly. So you got to pick up the phone and like, look, auntie, just need to ignore that.
Right.
They don't know me. It's just part of the process. But no, I really did. It helped mature me. It helped me. I learned a lot, especially from the other candidates. That's why it was easy to put Mac. I immediately recognized that Mac is respected, highly respected. Not only in the community, but also in the police department and the institutional knowledge that he has, specifically when it comes to crime in the city of Baton Rouge. I had to tap into that.
Yeah, because his team was no joke. The Jump Out Boys, I don't know if they like being called that, but,
they call street crime.
Okay. But they, they're really boots on the ground, and he did such a great job, especially when he worked on the Brave team.
Yes.
Those guys were second to none.
Absolutely.
They were really good. They really was. So, having him as part of your team, you're right. You just have a whole plethora of good people that I believe that's just going to, go forth and make our community, the best that it can be.
Absolutely.
So, everybody wants to know about crime.
Yeah.
We're going to go ahead and jump into it, because we're going to talk about that a lot, if you don't mind, because I want to hear some of the great things that you have, in store for that. But when it comes to crime in Louisiana, everybody knows we have a challenge with it. And we talked about transparent, from day one. I know that's one of the things that the mayor is adamant about, herself and her staff being transparent. So how transparent can you be with us when it comes to talking about crime?
Well, one of the things in crime, I think there's a reason why the average chief of police is probably 3.5 to 4.5 years long, right? And I think when it comes to crime, that law enforcement are low-hanging fruit. It's easy when there's a increase in crime to look at the police department. Absolutely, but crime is a socioeconomic issue.
Yeah, you're right.
When our schools fail to teach, when our faith-based organization fails to reach the heart and mind of the kids, when there's a depreciation in family value, that's when law enforcement gets involved.
Yeah,
that's what's going on right now, not just here in Baton Rouge, but in America as a whole. And I accept the responsibility that comes along with this position, but I think that if we expect any chief of police to come in and clean up crime, then I think it's an unrealistic expectation.
That's pretty good. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to talk more about crime. And I like what you said. It takes all of us, because a lot of times you guys kind of get the brunt of it, because everybody think that you should be, doing something about it, which you are. But it takes a village. That's the real deal. It does. It takes a community. So we're going to take a quick break. Don't you go anywhere, and we'll be right back with Chief Murphy Paul. All right. All right, so far so good.
All right.
So we'll go ahead and go start the next one. Okay. Hey, thank you so much for staying tuned with the Tailgate Show. I'm so glad you're sticking around to hear about what our Chief Murphy J. Paul has to say. And before we took a break, we were talking about crime. Yes. And you kind of really broke it down, how it takes a community to, deal with this issue. We've had a culture of crime for a long time. Yes. And we know that has to stop. And what are some of the things that you and your department are going to try to maybe enforce or maybe make better to bring change?
Yeah, well, we know it starts at home. So one of the things is that education and talking, in some of our messaging, and we actually, if you go to our Facebook page, our Deputy Chief Herbert Annie is communicating to the public. And
I saw that. That was way cool.
Absolutely. Telling parents that this, you remember, we call it the good old days, right? Back when it took a community to raise a kid. I remember as a young kid, if I did something, anybody in that community, in that block, could discipline me. And then when my mother came home from work, I was disciplined the second time, right?
Right.
You know, double jeopardy, right? It was common. And nowadays, you can't tell anybody nothing about their kids, you know? And it's just going back to that, you know, some of the family values that for some reason we've lost. And that's why we tell parents, you know, kids are kids. And no matter how mature we think our kids are, obviously they make mistakes. We know the mistakes we made when we were kids. So search your kids' rooms.
Right.
You know, check it. Check their phones.
Hey, our parents did.
Absolutely. Go under the mattress, check the car, go in the glove compartment.
Take the hinges off the door if you have
to. Absolutely. And if you find a gun, pick the phone up, call us, and we'll come take it with no questions asked.
That's pretty good.
No questions asked. We'll come get it, because we know that when we take that gun out of the situation, in the event that youth or that young person was involved in something, it's unfortunate, but when there's a gun involved, simple arguments can turn violent, because some of these kids, some of our younger generation don't really understand conflict resolution.
Right. Come on.
And, you know, just doing that as responsible parents. I remember growing up, my mom, she could sit there and she can tell you, she could point kids out and tell you which one's going to end up the way they were going to end up.
Right.
And, you know, hindsight going back, boy, she was right.
Right. Isn't that something?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, because like you said, you know, it starts when they're so young.
Yes.
I do a lot of work in parish prison, and a lot of times we're looking at the data and the numbers of, you know, when kids started, you know, maybe, you know, committing crimes and got picked up for it. And it's at an early age. I'm talking about, you know, what for parish prison, you know, it's like, you know, they said 12, 13, but of course they go in at 17 or 18 now, you know, so, but it's unbelievable. And, you know, we're able to break down, you know, what the crime is, and a lot of it is possession.
Right.
So, you know, we're trying to do whatever we can to, you know, reduce people from, you know, using drugs, selling drugs, and the whole 9 yards. So, again, but you got, just be honest, some of the parents who are contributing to that. So, you know, it's almost like a culture we have to change and do a whole paradigm shift.
Right.
So, what do you think that looks like when it comes to community policing?
Well, you know, it's interesting because, you know, one of the things that we recognize is we cannot arrest our way out of this problem.
That's good. Because people think that's all you guys do, and that's not true.
And because the figures show us that doesn't work, right? The data shows us that doesn't work. We can't arrest our way out of this problem.
That's
we have
good.
to educate ourselves out of this
That's
problem.
good.
We have to educate. You know, when we talk about disinvested communities, when we talk about solutions, I give you education.
Okay.
When we talk about the disproportionate number of young black men that's in Angola State Penitentiary, I give you education as a solution. When we talk about the disproportionate number of young men that are dropping out of high school and what the finality of their life experience is going to be, I give you education. Even when we talk about what's going on in America today, when it comes to trying to develop an understanding and a tolerance, right, for what's going on in America with this lack of leadership, like we had a country out there, like a boat with no rudder.
Right. For real, we just going by, just just floating.
That's how it seems. And you know how we deal with that is I give you education as a solution, and also faith. You know, I talk about three things, and this is what I talk to my kids about in every speech. I just spoke at 3 churches last week here in the Baton Rouge area to the youth on scholarship programs, and I talk about the 3 C's and the 3 F's, and that's control, choices, and consequences. That's what I tell kids, and faith and family first. The 3 C's and the 3 F's.
That's pretty good. So, how are kids? How are they taken to you? Because you're out there. I mean, you're out there. You know, in churches. You know, I see you a lot when a lot of community things are going on. I mean, you're out there. I mean, is that part of your platform as being chief, is to be more connected to the community?
Yes, and to listen to the community. You talked earlier about community police relations. You know, I recognize that one of my responsibilities is not only to change how the community sees law enforcement, but also how law enforcement sees the community that we serve. So I have to change those perceptions. Yeah. And part of going out there, like I've been with my staff, is I want people to get to know me, but I really want to listen. And I like to listen every time I go and take ideas from the community. And that's why you see we're so involved and engaged in so many activities around the the city, and I get a list of them. Before we conclude, I'm gonna go over some of them just week. But let me just remember, Boy Scouts at Camp Avondale this week. We got our community and clergy and police program this week. That's tomorrow.
No, what is that about? That sounds
that's
intriguing.
Awesome. So we're meeting with our faith-based community tomorrow, and I really believe that the answer to change some of the crime, the crime that's going on in this community is, look, we got to be honest. It's not white kids killing white kids.
Right. But people don't want to talk about that. Let's keep
it
real.
It's not black kids killing white kids.
But people don't want to talk about that. Let's keep it real.
It's black on black crime.
People don't want to talk about that. Let's keep it real.
What keeps me up at night, literally, are the homicides in this city. And last year when we had 85% of our homicides, it was black male victims. And 80% of the suspects that we believe committed those crimes were African American males. So we have an issue and a problem with black men, young black men in the city of Baton Rouge. And when we look at what's going on with these young black men, and we look at solutions, I give you education or the lack thereof. Okay? So we are still rebounding from our response to the crack cocaine epidemic.
Right,
okay?
we are.
But we have the zero tolerance. Now today, it's all about treatment with this opioid epidemic.
Yes, opioids no joke.
Now,
but it doesn't affect us like it affects other people.
It's the right response. I just wish we'd had that response many years ago. Absolutely.
You know we should have. When we had crack cocaine, we should have had that response. But because, let's be honest, it does not look like us, then that's the problem. Hence the problem.
Yes.
And I can say that you don't have to, I will. Because I deal with people every day. That's my real job, dealing with people with addiction. And that's the truth. You know, looking at, who comes in and who's getting treated. I'll help to treat everybody. But when it's all said and done, when it affects a community that doesn't look like us, there's a problem. But we've been having a problem.
Yeah, and I really think, because I look at it through the lens like, okay, we learn from our lessons, right? We look back and we recognize that crime is down in the city of Baton Rouge. Let me say that. Crime is down. Homicides are up. Overall crime is down. Homicides are up. Last year, we ended the year with a record number of homicides, but we only saw 47% of those homicides. Now, since then, we've made arrests. Let me make sure we've made arrests in 47% of the homicides from 2017. This year, we've made arrests from homicides that occurred in 2017, which got us up to about 52%, I believe, 53, which is still below the national average, which is around 60. But last month, in the month of May, we had 12 homicides, which is a record, okay, in the month of May, But we made arrests in 75% of the May homicides.
That's good. That's good, and people need to look at that. That's pretty good.
Because one of the reasons I believe is because we got 300 to 400 calls coming in to Crime Stoppers. We got people on crime scenes saying they're sick and tired of the crime that's happening in the community, and they're willing to talk to us, and they're giving us information. I was on one crime scene, and I was telling the young lady, just be quiet, they're going to hear you. She said, I don't care if they hear me. I'm getting sick and tired of the murders around here.
That's good. So you're bringing in other organizations like faith-based organizations. And how do you see the faith-based organization playing a vital part in this?
Because when I go around and I talk, I just went to juvenile services, and I had an opportunity to tour their facility and talk to a couple of young men. There were 6 young men in that room. They asked me to step in. They were taking conflict resolution. And I talked, and I had questions. And there was one man, he could care less what I was talking about. And no matter what I say, no matter what kind of words, what words I can try to find to touch his heart, he wasn't there. And I can probably tell you with some degree of certainty what his outcome is going to be. I pray that that's not the case.
Right.
And I told that young man, I said, I am going to pray for you, and we all going to pray for you. He
good.
Wasn't engaged. He didn't want to listen. He could care less what I had to say. But those other 5 young men, they listened. They responded. So when I see that young man, I've seen many young men like that.
That's pretty good.
And their hearts are not in the right place.
Right.
And no matter what social service programs that we try to provide, and I applaud our efforts on that, no matter what type of initiative that I try to present as your chief of police, there's only two institutions that I know of that are in the heart business.
That's right.
And that's faith
that's right.
and family.
That's right. That's it.
That's why I say faith and family first. So what I'm asking our faith-based community to do is come in, because we will never, ever reach these young men from the church. Because when I go to church on Sundays, and all the church that I visit, the guys that we having problems with, they're not in the church on Sunday.
Yeah, come on.
So if we want to reach them,
we
can't
have to
do
go
it from
out.
the pulpits.
We got to go out.
Pulpits, and we got to hit the streets,
That's
and we
right.
got to evangelize to the lost.
That's right.
Because that's the only way we're going to touch the hearts and souls of these young men.
That's right. And I agree with you. Like I said, my day job is helping people with addiction and destructive behavior and mental health. But, the love and my passion is being a licensed ordained minister. And you're right, we deal with people who have addictions every day, and that's great. But we are not just about, that part of it being the faith-based, program. We really want to, get people's heart changed, because we know if we can get their heart changed, then everything else is going to fall into place, So I like that. And like you said, going back to the family,
Absolutely.
and just, getting out there and talking to families and, giving them the resources that you need. And I know the mayor is really, good about that. You're good about going out in the community. And so I think using the faith-based community in a way like that just would be, perfect.
Yeah, and we're going to have some training tomorrow. We're going to talk. We're going to get some ideas. It's at the Breck facility on Jefferson Highway. And we're going to have a conversation, and we're going to ask our pastors to help us on certain dates. We have 52 men. We have a 52-man shortage. I have 52 vacancies. We're going to be putting together another academy.
That's for recruitment?
That's correct. I have 52 vacancies currently right now in the Baton Rouge Police Department, which means we have around 646 police officers that are actually in uniform out there working. 29 of those just graduated from the police academy 2 weeks ago. Okay, now the 29 that graduated from the police academy, of the 29, 26 live in Baton Rouge.
That's good.
Yeah, 3 live outside the city limits. So we have police officers who are living in the community.
Who are vested in the community.
Absolutely. That's a positive.
Yes, it is.
So that's something we are also excited about. They're going to be in that FTO program, our Field Training Officer program, for 16 weeks before we can release them on their own. So we are definitely excited about that. But in the meantime, we still have issues with homicides. And we had 2 last night. One appears to be maybe a domestic. We had one last week, which may also be a domestic that we're still investigating at this time, but we're making arrests in these cases. But in the meantime, when what we're asking our commanders to do is use some of the technology that we have and let us know where we're seeing the hot spots, right? And typically what happens in law enforcement is we take resources from other areas and direct into those resources to try to have an impact on crime. Well, we're still doing that, but in a different way. We're still moving guys in there. We met with the sheriff Sunday, and I met at a church and had a conversation about some partnerships that we're going to be announcing really soon.
That's good.
Once we put our task force guys together, our street crimes unit and their SCAT team. And just not ready for public consumption right now. We got to make sure we're on the same page with that. But even with that effort, what we're going to be asking our Christian community to do is we're going to give them dates and times that we need their help.
That's good.
And you know what? We're going on prayer patrol.
I know that's real. Come
we're
on,
going to start
that's
doing
right.
Prayer patrols to evangelize to the lost, trying to find these young black men.
That's good. Because like you said, they're out there. They're not coming to church.
They're not.
They're probably in the bed asleep, from staying out late, the night before.
Yes.
But they're out there,
Yes.
and with some good training, with some good mentoring, with telling them that God loves them and have a plan for their life for real.
Absolutely.
Not just preaching to them, but really speaking the truth in love. I've seen the difference, and I know it can happen.
Absolutely.
And then, going back and saying, okay, we know faith without works is dead, so you don't know how to read, guess what? We're going to point you in the right direction where you can get a GED.
Absolutely.
That's the kind of things you guys are doing.
Absolutely.
And that's the stuff that's going to work.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's pretty good. Well, I can't help we have to take a break, but I want to talk to you some more about community policing, about your
Yeah.
Leo program, and I just want to hear from you, what you need from us as a community, because it's going to take all of us working together. So don't you go anywhere. We're going to be right back at the Tailgate Show. We're going to take a quick break. Well, that's pretty cool that you're doing that. That really is good. I mean, prayer patrol. Like I said, I don't have it's not that I don't have a problem with Truce. I know everybody, most everybody who worked there, but just some of the philosophy and, working with Bray before, it was a challenge. It really was. I mean, it was so law enforcement heavy that, a lot of the kids were, scared to death. They thought, we was going to rat them out, stuff like that. They wasn't really ready to talk to us. But when it's all said and done, you're right. Most of them, lack education. Their parents did. And it was no joke.
We never really preach education from the pulpit.
No.
We don't. And we really have to start pushing that. But I really think that Truce kind of learned some of that because it's really heavily focused on services and not law enforcement.
I understand that.
They really are trying to get away from that. So some of our initiative that we've been doing, even though we may have been coordinated, because I know we have call-ins coming in next month. We've already started our first list of call-ins. But there are things that we're doing from our position, targeting that small group of individuals that we believe are responsible for a majority of the crime.
Right.
And when we get actionable intelligence right now, we're going straight out.
Yeah.
We're going to talk to them and try to prevent some of these things. Does it work? Some of them are so gone, but I can tell you, we got a few success stories.
Yeah, I believe that. And there's still some out there. They just need some leadership. Just need some good people to go in there and, like I said, speak the truth in love, and then, provide some of the things that they're going to need because they're not going to get it at home.
No.
They're not going to get it in the streets, So, and like I said, it's not that, I don't like truth. It's just like, I'm not stupid. I just don't like the way it went down. I just don't like the way it became what it did. And I think, y'all should have been a little bit more involved in it. That's just my opinion.
And which one you talking about?
Truth.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Now, I'm not to tell you while I will be.
Yeah.
They changed they changed they changed the board meeting date so I can be there. I think there's some political agenda.
Oh, it is. I mean, you got. Well, I mean, like I said, it is. It's very political. I mean, and like you got, Braff coming in and, they want to do all this, but they want to put the money up. But anyway, we'll talk about that later when everything is off. But like I said, I know Sharon real well. You can call her today and say, I met with Tanja Miles, and she'll go, you good.
Yeah.
But like I said, but when it's all said and done, I love this community
and I think, some of this, because I really try to look at it like, and there are some good things that are being done. I do like, I think Aisha is the executive, but her heart is in the right place. She has a lot of knowledge when it comes to, the gangs and some of the bad actors that are out there involved in the crime. And it's a good partnership with that. But I think that, I just think that there's a lot of talent here that we're not tapping.
I agree. A whole lot. And a whole lot of people who want to get involved.
Yeah, we do it for free.
Yeah, we do it for free every day. We do it for free like it's nothing. All right, well, we're going to do our last 15 minutes. And like I said, we're going to, continue to talk about crime. But, still put it out there. I mean, you got 52 spots, man. Let people know why it's important to be a police officer. Because back in the day, that's what we wanted everybody to be. That, a doctor or an attorney. So we got to bring that love back.
Absolutely.
All right. Hey, thank you for sticking around to the Tailgate Show. We're talking to Chief Murphy J. Paul, and we're talking about crime, and we're talking about, recruitment, things that you can get involved in, things that we as a community need to get involved in. Let's talk about it some more. We only have 15 minutes left, but how important it is for the community to partner with you guys.
Absolutely. It is important, and that's why, I mentioned a community clergy and police program. We got the Walmart online grocery launch party that's
what is that?
Coming up. That's on Seed and Land, online grocery launch party. What we've learned is, there's so many initiatives that are out there where we already have existing companies, nonprofits doing things, and we just like, hey, we just want to partner with you because we know there's going to be a large presence from the community, and just our presence being there, partnering with companies like that, we just know it's a great thing because they already have a great relationship with the community, kind of like building off those reputations. We have the King David Baptist Church Summer Enrichment Program. We're part of that. The Brett Youth Chat, which is part of our Leo Summer Program.
And what is Leo?
So anytime we have young people talking with local law enforcement, it is just a positive thing.
It is.
Our youth, we're looking at. I was meeting with the youth recently, and they made me laugh because I was talking about our social media, Facebook, and they're like, nobody on Facebook. Our parents are on it, so we're like, okay, we got to get with Snapchat, and what's the other one? There's a couple of more, Twitter, and others. So we have to step our social media game up, right? So that we can start reaching the youth, and one thing I want to clarify, when we look at these homicides right now, we got over 40 homicides this year. These are grown folks, man. These are grown folks.
Meaning over the age of 18?
The average age is 30 years old right now.
What?
That's right on these homicides. Now, we had a couple of elders that were victims of homicide that may have, influenced those numbers a little bit, but the average age is around 28 or 29, I believe. So our youth this summer, we are worried about this summer. When we look at, I believe it's July, August,
those hot months,
and September are our worst on average months when it comes to homicide. And I think if we get a handle on that, then we will reach some of our goals by the end of this year. But the only way we're going to do that is through the help of the community. And that's why when we're telling parents, loved ones, friends, girlfriends, if someone has communicated to you their intentions, and we do know in some of these homicides, in some of these cases, someone has communicated their intentions to a loved one, family member, or friend. When you have that information, you have a choice to save a life.
Right, that's good. That's good.
If my brother came in the house and he was upset and mad and said that he was going to hurt someone and he go in the room, and I know he got a gun in the room, and I know my brother, I know what he's capable of doing, and I see that anger in him, and he makes it to that room. If I love him, am I going to let him leave that room because I know what's going to happen?
Yeah, well, not only are they going to save a life, they're going to save two lives. They're going to save the life of the person who maybe they want to hurt, and then they're going to save their life for not living, a life in, Angola or DCI.
Exactly.
So, you're set. And, and that all, that's two families messed up.
Exactly. So if it's my brother, I'm going to get in front of the door. I'm going to tackle him. I'm going to call mama. I'm going to call the pastor. Right. Everybody who I know love him and say, he's going to kill somebody. We got to stop him.
That's right. That's right. That's good.
That's what love is. Because if I don't do that and he commits that act, now what I'm doing? I'm hugging him from a jail cell. Yeah. Or they're going to retaliate and I'm having a funeral for him.
Right.
We got to think different.
Yeah.
Now, I do understand that there are barriers in community police relations where people don't feel comfortable with calling us and doing that. And I get that. And we're doing things to break down those barriers. But even if you're not comfortable with calling the police, call your pastor. Call your community ambassador. Call somebody.
Right.
Just like there's interventions that family get together when somebody's on drugs. With God, we can have interventions when we know they're out there shooting, robbing, or doing whatever.
That's right. Because we have to, if we see something, we have to say something. We have to get involved because if not, to me, it makes us part of the problem and not part of the solution.
Absolutely.
And we should be solution based. So we're going back to talking about being transparent. So what is it looking like for the rest of the year? What are some of the things that you're going to put in place? I know the mayor has done a great job of changing some policies, which I think have been great and long overdue. But, what's your outcome for, this year?
Well, one is we went online, so you can file complaints online.
That was pretty cool.
With the plea, and there's still some revisions we need to make in that. I've been getting some input from the community. So that's one thing. We're transparent with. The other is a praise button. We don't praise our officers enough.
That's
right. So not only can you file a complaint, you can also praise. And I like to say that we get far more praises than we get complaints.
Oh, that's good.
So that's beautiful. I get my next update on that tomorrow. We got some training initiatives that we're in the initial stages of. One where we're going to be teaching peer editing, which not peer editing, peer. I'm trying to get the right name. What do we call it? Peer intervention, but I'm trying to think of the acronym that we use. But it's basically a peer intervention program where we are going to train our officers on how to intervene when we see something escalating. So it's a de-escalation training.
Okay,
but it's a different twist to de-escalation that I had an opportunity to hear about through one of our law enforcement partners. So that's one thing that we are excited about.
Yeah, and that is working because I know you guys do a 40-hour-a-week thing with people who have mental health and how the police can go out when they get a call and handle that, and how they can de-escalate and how to talk to that person and look, like I said, I'm a part of that and I've seen it work, and your guys are doing amazing, showing up, and now it's part of y'all. What you guys don't know, it is a part of the academy. Yeah. So you guys are serious.
Absolutely.
You're really serious.
Training is so important. Training, I think I met with BRAF last week. BRAF is going to be, we're going to be partnering with them. They're looking at some grant opportunities
that's good.
To address mental health and mental illness and law enforcement's response and services for those with mental health issues, as well as reducing the incarceration rate, as well as the amount of time someone spends incarcerated. So those are that's one thing that we're excited about, and when the opportunity presents itself, hopefully we'll get that. But we're going to be partnering with BRAF, and that we signed that letter last week. So we got a lot of things. We're looking at, I think, social media and community relations and branding is so important as we move forward in this new generation. I think that's something that I think we can do better at, that we haven't really done a good job at. And we are exploring ways, because we have to start telling our story better. We haven't. The media's always told our story. Unfortunately, when there are bad incidents, that's what make headlines and trend on social media.
Right.
So we're going to do a better job of telling our stories. So you're going to see that, and part of telling our story is going to be transparent, where we are putting information out via the internet, via our social media platform, and also online.
So is that part of, getting the community to trust, because like you said, unfortunately, social media is great. It has its great points. But when something happens between a police officer and a young black male, it escalates and everybody knows about it. But again, you don't hear about the positive things. And you can see it now, but for the most part, it's not, So what do you see is, you guys are doing to encourage, the community? Look, get involved with us. We are our brother's keeper. We're all in this together. We're all in the same community together, so we have to be a part of this.
Yeah, historically, most of our interaction with the community is based on a negative stimulus. Something bad has happened, and we're responding to that call for service. So when we increase that positive experience, where we take that negative stimulus out in programs like this, then I think studies show that improves community police relations. So that's what we're trying to be more proactive in going out there, encouraging our police officers to know the people in the community that they serve. It's about relationships. Because when I respond and you and I have a relationship, then when I respond, I have that intelligence with me, and then I respond with the appropriate
and I trust you because we not kick it, but I see you a lot. I see you patrolling.
Absolutely.
I see you. Like you said, 29. 26 you said of the police officer in the last. That's pretty cool. That live in the community. Yes. So people can't say people are living outside the community. They are a part of the community, in which we have a great community. So let me ask you a pretty cool question. I think it's cool. So when it's all said and done, and you've done this for like 15 years, how many years? I know 12 for sure. I'm saying that out there. 12
That's definitely
for sure.
Not the norm.
It's going to be the norm. 12 for sure. So what do you want your legacy to look like?
What I would like to see, for me, if I'm blessed and if I can write the chapter, the final chapter in my career here, and if I could, I would hope that it was one that we progress to a more professional law enforcement agency, that we partner together, the mayor's office and everybody, to make us one of the highest paid police departments. We are the capital city.
That's right. Come on.
And we should be paid as such. And that we are not only professional, but we're well paid as a law enforcement agency.
As well you should be. You're putting your life on the line every day.
Absolutely. And that when we do a survey out there, and I'm not just talking about in the good areas where we already have a great relationship. I'm talking about in those areas where police relations are at its worst. That even when we do the survey in those areas, they say, we love the police department. One of the biggest compliments that you can give, I was having a conversation with someone in the community, and she said, do not transfer, because there was some transfers made, and she said, do not transfer so-and-so, because that's my police officer.
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
Right?
That's pretty cool.
And then, and when I saw that guy, and I don't know if that community leader told him, he said, there's a few transfers going around, Chief. I hope you don't transfer me. That's my community.
That's good.
And when I heard that from this officer, and I heard it from this lady in the community, and this is the downtown area.
Yeah, that's a true stakeholder, though.
Because I saw ownership.
Yeah,
it was his community. Right. I saw ownership in her. It was her police officer. And I thought, wow, that's where I want all our police officers to be at. So that's why I want the community to be.
So is that what you want your legacy to look like when it's all said and done? Because you got a long road ahead of you. And I can't wait to see what happens and what transpires and how you make this community so much better with the the crew that you have. But is that part of the legacy?
Yes, to say that the Baton Rouge Police Department, that the community believes in their heart, that the vast, vast, vast majority of the men and women who work for this police department are good public servants, and that we are guardians first.
That's good.
But at sometimes within a split section, we have to transition from that guardian to that warrior.
That's good. Come on, that protect
we
that.
Have
That's
to do
right.
That.
Yeah.
And that they understand that.
Yeah.
That we're not a perfect organization, and that our police officers are human, and sometimes they make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes we can live with and we can address, and they can still have a good career. But sometimes those mistakes are so egregious that they can no longer wear their badge.
That's true. So how can people get involved? What's the first? What would you suggest to our listeners if they're like, I like what I heard, and I'm being honest, I'm biased because that's what I did for 9 years in military police. That's how I know so many of your guys because they were in my squad and my platoon and stuff like that, and they were great guys. And so what can we say to people who are listening, saying, you know what, I'm sick and tired of the crime. I want my community to be better. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying in the 705, 02, whichever one you wanna, whichever one you live in. But I want my community to be the best that it can be. What can they do to help?
Get involved. When you have information, call Crime Stoppers. If it's one of your loved ones and you don't want to call us right now, and you want to call your preacher, call your preacher. Say, I found this gun in my child's room and I want to get rid of it. Call the police department. We'll come get it. But get involved. There's so many initiatives that you're going to be hearing about that we're involved in. We want to partner with you. We want to do that. But also understand that as we progress, when we're asking the community, there's work that needs to be done on the community side as well.
No doubt.
And you're going to hear me say this, and I get criticized for it But this is a great law enforcement profession. We ask a lot of our police officers. We want them to be crime fighters. We want them to be social workers. We want them to be marriage counselors. We want them to, not as Narcan. We try to give so that they can address the opioid epidemic. Absolutely. And we ask all of these things. And at the end of in the split second, they have to be a warrior.
Yeah.
Each one of those deserves a different hat he has to wear, different training, and we have to do it at the drop of a dime. So it's not an easy task. So what I am asking the community is, when you come in contact with our law enforcement officers, please be respectful, comply, listen, follow their directives. Now, when they're unprofessional, if you believe that you were profiled, if you believe we were not doing our job, if you believe that there was anything wrong, then go online, file a complaint, pick up the phone, call Internal Affairs, call your community ambassador, call your preacher, let him call a complainant. We will address the behavior. Now, here's what we have to understand. Most policy violations, we're going to be able to address through coaching, mentor, training.
That's good.
Okay?
That's good.
And then in some cases, it's going to be discipline.
And we need that.
Right. To hold them accountable,
That's
hold us accountable. But most will be addressing that, or just clearly articulating to the person that we had a legal right to do what we did.
Right. That's good.
Right?
Yeah.
But be respectful, because respect goes both ways.
It does.
It goes both ways.
It does.
And we will hold our police officers accountable.
Well, that's good. And you know what? That's good to know. And, you know, this has been such a good time together. And if there's anything that you're doing that you want the community to know, you're welcome back anytime.
Yes, ma'am.
Our door is always open. Like I said, you know, we're behind you 100%, you know, here at the Tailgate Show, because we know that you're trying to make a difference. And we appreciate that. And, you know, to you and your guys, thank you. Stay safe.
When y'all see our police officers out there, go up there and tell them how you appreciate what they do. They can we can use the praise right now.
They need that. I mean, you guys need that. You're putting your life on the line every day to protect and serve. And I appreciate the guys that do that. And I appreciate you guys who listen to the Tailgate Show every week. Thank you so much. And like I say every week, go be great. Wake up every day like you're on a mission. Matthew 6:33. Peace. And we're done.
All right.